welcome to my channel. Today I'm bringing you another layout using the 4kidsat147 kit. So I'm starting with these two photos of my son. They are both printed on a 6x4. So so I did chop them down thinking I'd use them as two separate and then decided to pop them back together again. So it's just two photos on one 6x4. So I'm using the spotty paper in the kit. I did make sure that I used more the bottom spots with not as much pink for my boy, but my main aim with this kit is to use up a lot of the scraps. So I have a lot of pieces of paper that are already cut and I'm just layering those all up and moving them about, just trying to get some sort of cluster and layering behind the photo without necessarily cutting into some of the bigger pieces. I am a little bit of a neat freak at times, not that you could tell in my house due to the fact that the children aren't, but I do like to feel as though I am getting somewhere with a kit, and that quite often involves using all the scraps up so that things are a little bit tidier. So I'm just moving clusters about now, trying to use up branding strips as well, cutting off the little bit that never quite cuts right. Maybe I need to treat myself to a new trimmer. But layering all those up and seeing what works to get another boy layout out of this. So I've got all my layers how I like them now. I have given them a light inking around the edges in black, and I'm working on my title. So my title is going to be Tested to be Perfect. It was a test that my son went through a few months back, which did result in him being as normal as a 14-year-old teenager can be. So that's where the title from this layout came. So I've used the thickers from the kit, and then the 2B I have brought in from some stickers I purchased when I was in Australia last year or the year before. I think they were from Target, but they may have been from Kmart. I just like the font and the lettering, so it works quite well for the small bits like this. So now my base layer is ready. It is now what we call the time where I mess. So I'm using one of the pink paisley die cut frames, which I've cut into two. I've got one on the right bottom corner and one just underneath the title on the left, which is going to be two of my embellishment clusters. My third embellishment cluster I was thinking would be up in that top left hand corner where you can see the acetate A circle at the moment. However, that does end up moving with the way the layout goes. So I'm layering some things up. Behind the frame I'm using the numbers to layer up to give the colour. I've used one or two of the numbers already on a layout. However, I didn't think that I'd be using the rest and couldn't envision a layout that would use them. So I wanted to use them for the shape, the colour, the fact that they're acetate and a different texture instead. So I'm tucking them underneath the frame. You can't tell what number they are, but they do give a little varying in shape and design and stuff on the layering. So that's quite a good way to use up those little acetate numbers if you have any left as well. I've still got a couple left. They may or may not make it to a layout, but I do feel as though I've given them a good workout. So I'm bringing in some of those vellum hearts again from Studio Calico in the colours that do match up with the kit. So I'm using the turquoise and the black. I did want a smaller black one to go with the two hearts that are currently up in the top left but will move. So I've just punched one out of a bigger one using my Stampin' Up punch from a few years ago. So messing about with the acetate piece again, I did like the look of it and the feel of that with it having the brick pattern. However, it doesn't end up making it onto this layout in the end. But it takes me a while to realise it's not going to happen. I'm going through the die cuts and bits and pieces that I do have left, pulling out some more numbers, again in the colours that I wanted to use, which was the turquoise and the yellow, just to spread those colours about the page a little bit more. So tuck them into many different layers until they finally settle. And it's at this point that I decided to move my cluster to where I am now, just at the top of the page. Brought in that ticket with the number 3, which I do end up covering the number 3 up, but I wanted it for the capture, record and document that was written on it more. So this now I seem to have got my clusters. It's a matter of repeating some things. So I've got a ticket again from the pink paisley die cut pack, and I've just chopped off a little piece, chopped it in sort of 2/3 and 1/3 so that I can spread it on the bottom right hand cluster and the top left near the title as well. And that gives that ticket shape in all 3 clusters there. In come the vellum hearts again. So they can again appear in all 3 and bring those colours over. Having yet another look through the sheets, and I've pulled up the number 1 to bring a pop of yellow to the bottom near the title, and I like the way that's looking. And then I pulled out the other coloured numbers to give those a go as well. So I think my title's down now. My hearts are stuck down. I've got 2 staples in each of those. Oh no, there we go. I'm chopping it down, sorry. So yeah, the staples are already in there, and I've now just decided to chop down that strip that reached from the top to the bottom of the page. I think because my page didn't touch the edges on any other side, I wanted to bring that in and enclose it a little bit. So I did that, and then I went round the whole of the outside in a black pen, so the page has a frame, but everything is contained within the 12 by 12. So now I've got my hearts, I've got my chopped down numbers all in the right place. In comes these pink paisley word stickers, which are sort of on a little bit of vellum. They are very forgiving and wonderful, which is great for me because I do move things about a lot, as you will see here countless times. So underneath the tested to be perfect, I've put the word forever, and that will stay there. All the others will move about a few different times. So I'm currently moving about a row of stars, but it doesn't quite work in the cluster how I want it to. So I will end up swapping that out, and that will become the word best, which will sit on the bottom right hand corner with the frame. So there's the word best. It's going into a few different spots before it'll settle in its forever home, but it's still stuck, and as you can tell, it's been moved a few times, so I do really like these stickers. So now I have a word by the title and by the bottom right hand cluster. I'm now working on which word I want up in that top cluster. So I tried a heart, but wasn't quite liking how that worked. So I finally settled on the word lovely, and that's up at the top, and that got stuck down only once, which is a bonus for me. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing here. Possibly chopping down that little bottom strip just a little bit more. Yes, so just making that a little bit shorter, so the layout, it for the sake of a few centimetres, it just looked a bit better for me. So now I'm bringing in some black stars from the Amy Tan thicker sheet, moving those around and layering them up around each cluster. So I've got one with tested to be perfect, which I then added a hashtag. So now with me having 2 black elements, or 2 strong black elements there, I did decide to bring in some other stars onto the other 2 clusters, which I should do in a moment. I'm just messing about with more word stickers, which don't end up staying. But this is my process. It's speeded up for you, which you'll be glad to know. So we've got a star in each cluster, and as I say, we have a hashtag perfect. So I'm now bringing in another star to the top cluster and the bottom right hand cluster from the Amy Tangerine. Now with me having those 2, I did feel as though I needed another element of black that was quite big, just to bring those 3 black elements into the clusters. So I'm back on the word stickers. So the one at the top says a little bit of crazy, and that brings in, I felt as though that was the third one, even though I did have the vellum hearts. They're a little bit of a lighter black, so it's not quite as strong. And then at the bottom, I'm trying again with a couple of the phrases I do like, but the shape's not quite working well. So I brought in this one called that just says love in big letters, and that will settle up in that top corner of that cluster. Just moving it over so it tucks in underneath the paper layer. Benefit of multiple paper layers. So I thought I was done, but then I did decide that I needed a little bit more of the glitter that I have in the title. So once I pop this other word down that says bravo, I will bring in the Chamel glitter thickers and just add a little asterisk to each of those clusters just to bring that element over as well. And there we go, I'm done. Thank you very much for watching.